the heart of this nation, under skies so blue,
there's a spirit that's stirring, values strong and true.
from the mountains to the prairies, from the cities to the sea, we stand for liberty, for faith and family. We're diving deep into the heart of what we believe.
Welcome to the Deep Dive podcast show, everyone. Today, we're diving into a significant legal development that underscores the relentless fight against international drug trafficking and money laundering. We're talking about a Colombian national who's just been handed a pretty hefty sentence. Can you walk us through the details of this case?
Absolutely. This is a really important case. A Colombian national, Michael Nunez Daza, also known by his alias Luki, who's 49 years old, was recently sentenced to 60 months in prison. That's a full 5 years behind bars. On top of that, he's also been ordered to forfeit a staggering $1.2 million. So, it's not just about the jail time, it's also about hitting these criminal organizations where it really hurts them, in their pockets, essentially taking away their illicit gains. It's a clear message being sent.
Wow, $1.2 million, that's a significant amount. And you mentioned money laundering. Can you explain in simpler terms how this particular scheme worked? Because, the article describes it as a transnational money laundering organization. What exactly does that mean for listeners who might not be familiar with these terms?
That's a great question because it really highlights the sophistication and global reach of these operations. Essentially, Nunez Daza was at the helm of a criminal enterprise that stretched across Colombia, Mexico, and right here into the United States. His job, his organization's role, was to take drug money, the dirty cash from drug sales, primarily from Mexico, and make it appear legitimate. They did this through a complex system. He would orchestrate what they called bulk cash pickups in various U.S. cities. So imagine large amounts of physical cash, often in bags or suitcases, being collected from different locations across the country. These funds, which were the proceeds of drug trafficking, were then deposited into U.S. bank accounts. But here's the kicker. These accounts weren't in his name. They were registered under other individuals or shell companies specifically designed to obscure the true source of the money. Once the money was in these accounts, it would be further transferred, often in a series of smaller, less suspicious transactions, ultimately making its way to Colombia. What's even more telling is the speed of it all. The article mentions that within just days of that bulk cash being delivered and deposited here in the U.S., a corresponding amount in Colombian pesos would be delivered directly to Nunez Daza or his careers in Cali, Colombia. It's like a mirror transaction, completing the circle of the dirty money's journey and making it look like legitimate funds in Colombia. It's a classic example of hawala, or a black market peso exchange system. Though not explicitly stated, the mechanics are very similar, a trust-based system outside traditional banking.
That's incredibly detailed and honestly a bit chilling to hear how organized these criminal networks are. So, how much money are we talking about here, and over what period was he operating this particular aspect of the scheme?
It is chilling, right? And the scale is quite significant. The court documents reveal that Nunez Daza was incredibly efficient, or perhaps I should say proficient, in his illicit operations. In just an 8-month period between 2017 and 2018, he managed to launder at least $1.2 million for his Mexico-based co-conspirators. Think about that, 1.2 in under a year. That really shows the sheer volume of drug proceeds that these organizations are trying to clean and the effort they put into it. It's not just a small-time operation. This is a serious, high-volume criminal enterprise that requires a lot of coordination and, frankly, daring.
That's an astonishing amount of money in such a short time frame. Now, was this Nunez Daza's first brush with the law, or did he have a history of criminal activity?
No, he actually had a prior record, which adds another layer to his story. He had previously been convicted of conspiracy to distribute cocaine, and following that conviction, he was deported to his native country, Colombia, way back in 2004. So this wasn't his first foray into criminal activity, especially drug-related offenses. It seems he continued his illegal activities after being deported, escalating into this sophisticated money laundering operation. It's a pattern, sadly, of repeat offenders in the drug world, and it underscores the challenges law enforcement faces with individuals who, despite previous penalties, continue to get engaged in these illicit enterprises.
So he had been through the system before and was deported only to reemerge in an even more complex criminal role. Can you tell us about the timeline for his apprehension and sentencing in this specific money laundering case?
Certainly, the wheels of justice, while sometimes slow, they do eventually turn. Nunez Daza was initially indicted on these money laundering charges in January of 2023. However, because he was in Colombia, it took some time to bring him back to face justice. He was successfully extradited to the United States in April of 2025. Once he was here, the legal process moved forward, and he ultimately pled guilty to one count of money laundering conspiracy on August 14th of 2025. So you can see from indictment to extradition to guilty plea, it's a multi-year process that requires significant international cooperation and persistent effort from law enforcement and judicial bodies.
That's a very clear timeline. And speaking of law enforcement, obviously a case of this magnitude involves a lot of different agencies. Can you shed some light on who was involved in bringing Nunez Daza to justice?
Indeed, this was a massive collaborative effort, truly. The announcement of his sentencing was made by Acting Assistant Attorney General Matthew R. Gagliotti of the Justice Department's Criminal Division and Special Agent in Charge Stephanie Roddy of the FBI New York Field Office. The FBI actually led the investigation, which is a significant undertaking for such a complex transnational crime. The prosecution of the case itself was handled by the Criminal Division's Money Laundering, Narcotics, and Forfeiture section, which specializes in these types of intricate financial crimes. They also received substantial assistance from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida. Furthermore, because of the international nature of the crime and Nunez Daza's location, the Justice Department's Office of International Affairs, along with the Judicial Attaché in Bogota, Colombia, played a crucial role. They worked hand in hand with their Colombian law enforcement partners to ensure his arrest and, importantly, his extradition to the United States. It really highlights how these international cases demand a cohesive and coordinated strategy across multiple governmental and international entities.
It sounds like a true testament to international cooperation. And the article also mentions that this case is part of a broader initiative called Operation Take Back America. What exactly is that, and how does this case fit into it?
That's a critical point because it frames this specific case within a much larger overarching strategy by the Justice Department. Operation Take Back America is a nationwide initiative. Its core mission is to marshal all the resources of the Justice Department to confront several critical issues. First, it aims to repel the invasion of illegal immigration, as the initiative states. Second, it's focused on achieving the total elimination of cartels and transnational criminal organizations, which is precisely what Nunez Daza's organization falls under. And third, it seeks to protect our communities from the perpetrators of violent crime. So you see how Nunez Daza's money laundering activities, which fuel drug trafficking, directly align with the goals of eliminating cartels and protecting communities from the violent crime that often accompanies the drug trade. This operation also works to streamline efforts and resources from existing initiatives like the Homeland Security Task Force and Project Safe Neighborhoods, bringing them all under one coordinated umbrella to maximize their impact. It's a holistic approach to tackling complex criminal networks that threaten national security and public safety.
So, Operation Take Back America is essentially a comprehensive strategy to combat these multifaceted threats. And this sentence is a direct result of that. This case, I think, really highlights the sheer global scale of drug trafficking and the financial networks that support it. What are some of the broader implications or the human cost of these kinds of operations that listeners should be aware of?
That's a really important question to consider because while we're talking about numbers and sentences, the human cost is immeasurable. Money laundering, like that carried out by Nunez Daza, isn't just a white-collar crime. It's the lifeblood of drug cartels. These laundered funds enable them to purchase more narcotics, weapons, and to corrupt officials, extending their reach and power. This, in turn, fuels the drug trade, which devastates communities, tears apart families, and contributes to overdose deaths and violence, both here in the United States and in countries like Colombia and Mexico. Think about the public health crisis of addiction, the street violence in our cities, and the instability in other nations. All of it is directly linked to the profits generated by these criminal organizations and facilitated by individuals like Nunez Daza who clean the money. It also means that legitimate businesses and financial institutions are constantly under threat of being infiltrated or exploited by these networks, which can erode trust in the financial system. So when we talk about a 60-month sentence and a $1.2 million forfeiture, it's not just a legal victory, it's a small but significant blow against a much larger destructive global enterprise that impacts millions of lives daily. It's a stark reminder that prosecuting these financial crimes is absolutely crucial in the broader fight against drug trafficking and organized crime.
That's a really powerful way to put it. It connects the dots between the financial transactions and the real-world suffering they enable. This case really highlights the persistent nature of these criminal threats and the equally persistent efforts of law enforcement to combat them. Thank you for breaking down such a complex story for us. It's incredibly insightful. We appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure. It's vital for people to understand the scope and impact of these cases.